Now that we have a couple of weeks of college football action in the books, we're starting to get a little bit more of an idea of what we have in the 2026 NFL draft class. Who are the prospects that are making a splash right away? Who are the ones that we're still waiting to see break out? Who are the ones we're excited to watch in week 3 of college football? Stick around and we'll find out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to BPA. This is the best podcast available. It's the Athlon Sports NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, Luke Easterling, and today we're talking 2026 NFL Draft Class. Let's update the stock report. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the prospects that have popped over the last couple of weeks, first couple of weeks of full regular season college football action. Still some top prospects. We're still waiting for that breakout. We're waiting for them to make a splash, to announce their presence on the national stage with authority. And also week 3 slate. Who are the prospects we're excited to see? The matchups we're excited to see this weekend. To talk about all of it, we're bringing back our friend Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. You saw him on the show earlier in the 2025 draft process. Now he's back to talk about the 2026 class. So stick around in the interview room later. We're going to have that conversation, great conversation with Trevor. Until then, you know where we go first. We go to the top of the board. Let's talk about a couple of different things, one at the college level, one at the pro level. Some big storylines happening throughout the league as it relates to the draft. Let's go to the top of the board. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about today, and maybe it's a hot take, I don't know if it is, but about a month ago, everybody's 2026 mock drafts were Arch Manning at number 1 to whoever, the Saints, the Browns, whoever it was, right? And then Archie Manning, the grandfather, the former number 1 pick himself, comes out and says, he's going to be at Texas next season. He's not going to go into the draft. Everybody freaks out. Then Arch comes out and says, I haven't really decided. That's not his choice, and so everybody's like, okay, calm down. Maybe he's going to be in this class. Not too much conversation was had about whether or not he should be in the 2026 NFL draft class. And now that we've seen a couple of games of Arch Manning, obviously week 1, incredibly difficult assignment. Your first career road start in college, and it's at Ohio State. And boy, did it look like he had never played on the road before as a starter, because it was rough, man. That film was tough. And again, Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, star-studded defense in Columbus, hostile environment, not an easy place to play, especially for a young quarterback. And it looked like it. And so obviously everybody after that was like, oh man, I don't know. Arch doesn't look like Arch. Did we overhype this guy? Which we probably did. Last weekend, he looks a lot more like the guy we expected, but he does it against San Jose State, and he does it at home, right? 5 touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground. But a lot of wide open receivers, and still, if you go through the tape, still multiple throws, multiple moments where you see how many issues there still are to correct, particularly with mechanics, ball placement, decision-making. He is still so far from being ready to be an NFL franchise quarterback that I think the more film we see, and again, it's a long season, there could be a lot of development we see between now and the end of the season, especially, again, if Texas goes deep into the college football playoff, they make a championship run, he's playing 14, 15 games this season. That's a lot of reps. That's a lot of experience, which is, again, what he needs. He just needs to play a lot more football at a high level as a starter before he's ready to make that jump. So maybe it happens, but again, through 2 weeks, what we saw against an elite opponent in Ohio State on the road, what we saw against a lower level opponent at home, kind of what we expected, there's still just so much there that for me, I would feel much more comfortable seeing him come back for another season at Texas, really get polished, really get that starting experience, because there's just such a light years difference between the poise and the consistency and the accuracy we've seen from guys like Garrett Nussmeier, who's a very experienced senior quarterback. Even Sawyer Robertson, who I wrote about at athlonsports.com last weekend. Incredible performance from him in that upset win on the road against SMU, a ranked SMU team for Baylor. Those guys, they show their experience in the way they handle those clutch moments and the way they handle some of those tight window throws. It's just some stuff we haven't seen from Arch Manning yet. I don't know if we're going to see enough of it this season to warrant him being the guy everybody kind of expected him to be, like, oh, he's finally eligible, he's going to go number 1 overall. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think he's going to benefit from coming back to school and being a part of the 2027 draft class. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is we move to the NFL level, and I wrote about this at athlonsports.com as well. I did a full report on the rookie class that we saw in week 1 of NFL action, because, man, were there some fun rookie debuts in this class. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. You can see the Bucs stuff everywhere. But Emeka Ibuka, I don't care what team you root for, you have to acknowledge that NFL debut that guy had. Number 19 overall pick out of Ohio State. 4 catches, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner with about a minute left to beat Atlanta on the road. Huge road win within the division for the Bucs in a game they really didn't play well on both sides of the ball for a lot of that game, and they still went in and stole a win. But Emeka Ibuka had a lot to do with it. He scored 2 of their touchdowns, and he's a guy that, again, throughout all of training camp, everybody's just raving about this guy's a pro already. He's so experienced. He's so polished. And that's everything we said leading up to the draft, too, and everything we wrote, everything we talked about. That was his big thing, is maybe he doesn't have elite speed. Maybe he's not the most explosive, most super big, athletic, physical, dominant receiver. But, man, he's just so good at everything, and he's just so experienced and polished as a route runner, as a teammate, as a leader, all these intangible things that we really thought the floor was super high for him. Man, did we see that on Sunday against Atlanta. 2 touchdowns in his NFL debut. Some other guys that I noted in that article, Harold Fannin Jr., already a huge part of that offense in Cleveland. I know they got David Njoku, who played more snaps, ran more routes, but 7 catches for 63 yards for Harold Fannin Jr. They clearly have a plan for him and his athleticism. They're going to run a lot of 2 tight sets where they're getting him on the field plenty, getting him the ball plenty. He's clearly developed respect and trust with Joe Flacco right away, a veteran quarterback. Man, how about Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver from the Detroit Lions? A couple of months ago, we had Louis Riddick on the show from ESPN, and we asked for his favorite under-the-radar rookies from the draft class this year, and Isaac Tesla was one of those guys that he mentioned. 1 target on Sunday in that ugly loss for the Detroit Lions, but was it worth it, right? That incredible one-handed toe-tapping catch, falling down out of bounds, still manages to drag the feet, haul it in with one hand. Those are the flashes. That's the kind of stuff that Lewis was talking about, the potential that this kid has in this offense. I know they just gave Jameson Williams a huge contract. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, obviously going to be huge parts of that passing game. But, man, Isaac Tesla, early on, incredible returns on that investment as a third-round pick, a guy that a lot of us thought was a reach in that range. How about Armand Membu, right tackle, top 10 pick out of Missouri for the New York Jets? First assignment, week 1, you've got to shut down TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and boy, did he do it. 26 pass rushing snaps, 0 pressures, 90-plus run blocking grade from PFF. Again, we'll talk to Trevor Sikkema in a little bit from PFF. We'll have to mention that. But, man, just a dominant performance against an elite opponent for Armand Membu. And, again, that's the kind of guy we saw on tape at Missouri. Number 4 overall player on my board at athlonsports.com. And that was why. Elite athlete, elite testing at the combine. And the film was just so smooth, so polished against SEC competition. We all expected Bill Krosky-Merritt, the running back from the Washington Commanders, to play well. He wasn't the starter, right? He was RB4 on the depth chart. We were all concerned, does that mean he's not going to get the ball? 82 yards on just 10 carries for Washington, including a nice touchdown. He's going to be a big part of that offense. I don't care what number he is on the depth chart, but he's going to be heavily involved in that offense. Great week 1 from this year's rookie class. I'm excited to see how the rest of the class kind of develops over the season, but they made an immediate impact. There were rookies making big plays across the entire league all week long. Can't wait to see how they do it the rest of the year. Welcome into the interview room, and we've got official friend of the program now with the return appearance, Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus. I will not spend a great deal of time talking about the University of South Florida Bulls beating the Florida Gators this weekend. And I wore the USF stuff on last week's episode as a good luck charm, and it worked. So this week I'm wearing the Tampa Cuban sandwich shirt that we both own, and a Bucks hat. So I'm more leaning into the things we share and not the fact that my school beat your school. So we're just going to leave that at that.
It was hard too. It was hard too because, you want to be pissed, you want to be mad, and I was. Don't get me wrong, I was disappointed. But on the other side, it's like, dude, I love USF. I'm a Tampa guy. So many of my friends, root for USF, and I love the people of Tampa. So it was like I was disappointed, but at the same time, if we got to lose a game that we should absolutely have won to anybody, I suppose it's going to be the USF. So
it could have been worse, right? There's a lot of
could have been worse.
Probably would have preferred not to lose to, but we could do a whole show on that game, and it would be a fun show. But we're here to talk about the 2026 NFL draft class because we finally got a couple weeks of tape, right? We can talk all day long about what last year looked like and what we expect to see this year, but now we've actually got And we've had some good matchups. We've had some top 25 matchups. We've had some fun prospect matchups, some quarterback head-to-heads. But now that we've got a little bit to work with now this year, it's especially so important with the portal and NIL the way it is now, because everybody's in a new place. It feels like every prospect, there's something that's changed about their circumstances from the previous season that we've just got to see the new material, right? So when you look at the first 2 weeks of sample size that we finally have, who are a few prospects that are eligible for this draft class coming up that have really popped, that have really like just jumped up to you and be like, oh, well, I was way too low on these guys. These guys are clearly in a different tier now that I've seen them on the field in 2025.
Well, I don't know if, the when you asked me this question initially, I was thinking of guys that not necessarily guys who are like outside of my top 100 that I think are like flying up the board, but like there are some guys that were really, we don't have enough games under our belt to really say like, oh, okay, like this guy is very clearly just way better than I thought that he was going to be. I think that's a good exercise to sort of like revisit at the middle part of the year and at the end of the year. But there are players, to your point, to your question, where you go, okay, like, this guy could maybe is a first round pick. We kind of see it from him, and like, boom, the light is on. And the first guy that immediately comes to my mind is Ruben Bain Jr. from Miami.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be Ruben Bain.
I mean, Bain has to be one of these three players because I think he was number 16 when on my initial PFF big board. And I like Ruben Bain Jr. He was great as a true freshman. He was really good last year as well. When he was out there, I know he's battling through some injury. He had more games and he was more consistent his freshman year, but he was really battling through stuff last year. I mean, he goes up against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's got two offensive tackles that people think are future NFL guys. Emil Wagner is one of them at right tackle. I can't remember who the guy at left tackle is. He's not draft eligible this year, but I know Notre Dame really likes him.
Jagusa?
No. So he's hurt. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I was like, that's the name, but I feel like that would have,
Yes. So I actually like Jagusa the most out of any of the offensive linemen on Notre Dame, but like he missed all but 2 games last year with, I think it was a knee injury. And then he got in an ATV accident this summer. And he like broke his arm, and they're like, dude, come on.
Stay off the ATV.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, so those two offensive tackles, they're pretty good. Like they got NFL futures, and Bain is beating these dudes like a drum. I mean, he's working these guys. And so he was 16 on my big board because where his production has been great over the last 2 years. He's sort of that Kalijah Cansey conversation, right? Where you go, okay, he doesn't really have the length to play as a full-time edge rusher. If he's playing as a full-time 3 technique, he's a little bit light for it. But can you get him where he's this mismatch maybe in both situations? He's playing with more power than offensive tackles are used to, or he's playing with more quickness than guards are used to. You know how this works. We've been covering the draft a long time. Right. A lot of GMs, or a lot of fans, I should say, think about that for certain players. But very few are actually what Kalijah Cansey is right now. Like, remember Jalen Twyman? Twyman was one of them from Pittsburgh, where we go, oh, this guy's the next Aaron Donald. And he flamed out of the NFL pretty quickly. You remember Hercules Mataafa from Washington State?
Yes.
So the same way. It's like the same conversation of like, oh, he's this undersized, super quick 3 technique. And it's like, that doesn't, even Solomon Thomas. Solomon Thomas goes number 3 overall because people thought that he was that Aaron Donald type of a mold. And where Thomas has had an extended career, it hasn't been the impact of a guy who they
just kick him inside. He'll be a mismatch. It doesn't, It's not that simple.
It's just, and it's right. It's not that simple. For Bain, though, he's winning so much with technique, not just that uniqueness of like, oh, I've got a little bit more power than tackles are used to. I got more quickness than guards are used to. He wins with his hands. And more than that, like he knows how to win from savviness as well. Like I'm watching this guy, and I wouldn't say that he has bend because he's like 280 pounds. He doesn't really have bend. But when he turns the corner, he turns such a tight corner. He'll give you like a club rip move, and he will just be hugging the outside hip of an offensive tackle, and he is turning the corner as tight as you possibly can to get to the quarterback a little bit quicker. It's just been that for them. So it was a great first test for him. We saw him dominate that, and I just think that when you look at the last 2 years sample size, it's going to be a lot more of the same. So I was a little bit hesitant about him being a tweener just because of his guy. That's why I had him 16th on my initial big board. But if I'm doing updates and I'll have an official one probably in a couple weeks, I think he's going to be a top 10 prospect for me. just because of how productive he has been. And I think that he could be one of those guys that can make it even with that tweener size.
One and the effort too, right, on the interception to be
100%.
completely all over the field at that size, and that's what it's like. It's not just you can't control that the ball comes to you, but you can control the fact that you were there. Like you really shouldn't have been because you're just hauling ass to get out there and be in a position to make a play, right? That's the kind of stuff that I think that separates you, right? You can talk about the physical traits and the things like that, but when you bring those things to the table and you're the guy that's given 110%, putting yourself in position to make plays when the ball is because you're so quote unquote out of position just because you're hauling, right? I mean, those are the plays that I think make GMs and scouts fall in love with guys, and I think he's got that going as well.
Yeah.
All right, who's next? Who you got?
Well, I just realized that I'm just going to stick on the defensive line the entire time. I think it's easier for pass rushers to stand out. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. Yeah. I had Howell, in the 50s, 40s. It was looking like it was a pretty good edge rush class when we were going through summer scouting. And I had him like in the 40s and the 50s. I was like, okay, I definitely see it from him. But I kind of wondered, I was like, is he playing a little bit lighter than I would want to for an edge rusher? Because I felt like he was in the previous 2 seasons. Now he's only a true junior this year, so he was definitely you could tell yourself that he was going to put on a little bit more weight. He absolutely has going into the season, which you love to see because I think he's playing stronger. But then I was also like, does he have some inflexibility to him? Am I going to be worried that he can bend around the outside or just be as flexible as he needs to be a difference-making edge rusher? Because I always thought that he was like a second-round pick at worst when I was watching him in summer scouting. Yeah. It's just like, how high am I drafting this player? Even from the very small 2-week sample size that we have from him, I mean, he's putting up tape right now that could be edge 1. Like, he could be a top 10 player in this class.
He's got takeover moments, right? That takeover ability.
Unbelievable. Who is Texas A&M? Texas A&M was playing Utah State,
I think. Yeah.
Utah State this past week. And I'm watching these games. And there was one drive. I'm sure you saw the clips of it and everything.
Yep.
He got a sack on first down, second down, third down. I've never seen that before in my life. At any level.
1 man, 3 and out, baby.
Unbelievable. Like an insane nickname to give somebody when you have, think of all of the great edge rushers that have played cupcake schools over the course of college football, right? Yeah. I've never seen any of them get 3 sacks in a row, ever.
That's Derek Thomas level.
Insane stuff. And the final sack, what I loved about it is like the first sack, I think he hit an inside move for the first sack, and the crowd's going crazy, whatever. And you could tell he's feeding off the energy. And then I'm pretty sure he just does a speed to power bull rush on the second one. Just goes straight at this dude, or at least he tries to use some power. Maybe he got around the outside shoulder a little bit. I can't really remember, but you could tell he was feeding into that crowd's energy, got back, still got to the quarterback. So now the crowd's losing their mind. He just got 2 sacks in a row. He's going crazy. And then on that third rep, you could tell he's absolutely juiced up. And instead of being reckless with all of that energy and hype around this third down play, he hits this offensive tackle with a ghost move, and the offensive tackle just has no idea what to do with it. He hits him with a ghost move and then a dip of the shoulder straight around the outside shoulder right into the quarterback. There's 3 in a row.
So it's like he literally was like, I'm going to give NFL scouts everything they need in these 3 reps. I'm going to show you every single thing I can win with, and I'm going to win with all of it, and then I'm just going to drop the mic and walk away.
And that's the thing where I genuinely think that a lot of NFL evaluators are going to go back to that one series right there to say he gave you everything that we wanted to see from an edge rusher. Because that's what scouting is about, right? I think that sometimes it's a different balance and formula for everybody. Heck, I think that it's a different formula for NFL teams. Yeah. How much you really say, all right, well, this is what a guy is right now versus the potential that he has. And if you are leaning towards the side of the potential that he has, not that what right now Cassius Howell isn't great, because obviously it is, but if you even lean a little bit more towards 50% of saying, no, scouting is about what guys could be, I think that the teams that look at it like that are going to have him as a top 10 player in this class, because I don't know how you don't after the first 2 weeks if he can keep this up.
All right, so we're staying on the defensive line, which I'm fine with because you got to build through the trenches, right? Who's your last guy?
Joshua Joseph for Tennessee. He's sort of that guy that's taking over for James Pierce Jr. in that role there. And he flashed last year as well. He didn't get a ton of playing time. They were rotating a lot of guys deep, but he is somebody who now, through 2 weeks, once again has a near elite PFF pass rush grade. He has an 88.9 pass rush grade so far this season. He had a very high pass rush grade. I can't remember where it was, but it was high 80s last year as well. The pass rush win percentage is over 20%, just like it was last year. And he's still figuring it out. He is. But you talk about a guy with all the tools. He's got a great first step to him. And I think that his most valuable asset is his arm length, because you can tell offensive tackles just don't know what to do with it. He will get off the ball. He will put his hands up at the offensive tackle's chest. And even for offensive tackles that I don't really question their arm length, they're kind of struggling. They're like, whoa, hold on, wait a second.
They're like, well, now I'm questioning my own arm length.
Right. And so, he is still putting it together. But man, you talk about a guy who can win physically that you just might look at. And I think he's a day 2 type of prospect right now. But you look at him and you just go, God, I mean, how do you not pick a guy like that and then just get him with a good defensive line coach? Try to keep him clean a little bit more often. And so I think that he is one of those players who I had around in the 50s and 40s, but man, he's just somebody who I think for a lot of other people, he's going to be shooting up the board with just how effective of a pass rusher he is. He's only 2 games in. He's already got 7 total pressures. That win percentage, like I said, is over 20%, and he's already got himself 2 sacks on the season. We're not even into SEC play yet. So excited to see how he plays throughout the rest of this year.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I shouldn't be surprised. I think when we went into this season, it was that the edge class, the D-line class is the one I was probably the most excited about from a positional standpoint. Obviously, the quarterback class is fun, and I think that speaks to where we had Bain too. Like, it feels like Bain was part of this with him and Keldrick Falk and a couple of those other guys where it's like, I see the upside. I just don't know who's going to pop, like who's going to separate, who's going to be the guy that jumps. So it's been him so far, but I guess it doesn't surprise me that your 3 guys are all from that unit, because that's the one that I was excited to see. We don't have to spend as much time on this because I'm definitely more of a glass half full scout when it comes to show me what you can do, what you can't do. But Who are the guys that you're just not seeing it yet? You're underwhelmed. You're hoping they're going to break out, but it's just hasn't lived up to, I guess, what you saw over the summer, or you just know what they're capable of. But who's disappointing you so far this season?
Yeah, I'll go 3 pretty quick here with these guys. The first one has to be Arch. It has to be Arch Manning. He is somebody who was obviously draft eligible going into the season. Before he even played a game, though, there were conflicting, Archie says that he's not going to declare. The uncles are talking about him not declaring whatever. But I think a lot of people looked at what he did last year and said, boy, if that's the baseline and what he's going to be as a full-time starter, if he plays through the SEC, this team's got a chance to win a national championship, and he's got a chance to be in the Heisman conversation. And if that's going to be the case, it's going to be pretty tough to tell the NFL no if you've accomplished a lot of things that you want to accomplish. 2 weeks into it for Arch, and I mean, it just doesn't look good. I was floored at how bad his fundamentals were against Ohio State. It's not even about him not winning the game. That's a tough game. You're going up against Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator. You're going into Ohio State. It's Lee Corso's last game on game day. Like, there's a lot of stuff to go. All the hype for Arch, over the last 2-3 years kind of manifesting itself. I can understand him being nervous. But the problem is that his fundamentals are worse this year than they were last year. No question about it. His throwing fundamentals, specifically his throwing motion, was so bad against Ohio State, Luke, that at halftime of that game, I was like, did I miss something? I went back and I pulled up some of his games and his snaps from last year. And I'm like, no, he is so much worse right now than he was last year. And the fact of the matter is, it sounds like it would have taken a very special season for him to declare. We're 2 games in, and we are very far away from that being the case. So we've got a long season to go, but it sure feels like he is going to be a quarterback for 2027 and not 2026.
That's what I talked about this earlier in the episode. It's just the concerns for me aren't that he played poorly against an elite defense. It's the fact that the problems that are actually causing the poorest of his plays are so rudimentary. It's footwork. It's like you said, it's release point, it's decision making. It's like that stuff's a problem no matter who you're playing against. And you score 5 touchdowns at home against San Jose State like you should, but it's a lot of wide open receivers and a lot of moments where you're still, he's skipping passes on like slants and stuff where it's just like your base is off. Your release point is like there's a reason the meme all Saturday was Uncle Rico like chucking a piece of meat at Napoleon because like what are you doing? And it's not even, again, we could go on and on, but it reminds me like Justin Fields, his mechanics degraded behind that offensive line in Chicago those first couple of seasons, right? And that's natural. That's not really the problem. Like protection hasn't been the issue that's leading to these mechanical issues. So it's just, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know how it gets fixed, but that's why it's like immediately after 2 games, I'm with you. It's like, oh, he's definitely a 2027 guy. Like, please play as much football in college as you can because you got some stuff to work on.
I mean, even one of those touchdowns, I think it was like a tight end leak type of a play where he's going up the seam, but it was a little delayed. And I can't remember who they were playing this past weekend that wasn't good, but
San Jose
State. But like, okay, that goes as a touchdown on the stat sheet, but you watch that play, he's 2 seconds late to throwing that ball. I mean, that tight end was open on that route at least a second and a half to 2 seconds before he threw it. And I'm like, dude,
the worst defense in the NFL, that window is closed.
Oh my God. Yeah. That ball gets picked off by the safety if he throws it with that kind of timing. So anyways, Arch was disappointing. Caden Proctor has been disappointing as well as a pass protector, right? I mean, like, I think we went into the season thinking, he might be a guard. And the reason why we think that he might be a guard is because, one, he's got the mass to be a difference-making guard for sure. But 2 is just, can he move the way you need him to move to protect the outside and inside shoulders when you're on an island? And through 2 games, he has not. The Florida State game was really bad from him. And obviously this past week, they play a much lesser opponent. It looked better. But even then, I mean, the pass blocking grades weren't fantastic. So I'm a little bit worried about him. He really might be a guard. And then, man, through 2 weeks, a big game against Texas, and then on like a cupcake against Grambling State. Max Claire's got 1 reception for 7 yards. And the first target that he got at Ohio State was that out route against Texas, and he just drops it on the sideline. And I loved Max Claire's tape at Purdue last season. He was my tight end 1 going into the year, but through the first 2 weeks, I mean, not only did he struggle against Texas, he was a non-factor, non-target player against Grambling State in a game where they scored 70. So that was
70
also
and you got none of it.
and you got 7 yards. And so that's also a little bit concerning to me. Obviously, again, long season for all these guys, but those are 3 that I'm just a little disappointed at their production early on.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. I love getting this early tape because it does give us something to work with, but then we can look back at every process and know that if we only took the first 2 or 3 games from any of these players, we'd be missing so much of the story. So I'm excited to see the way the rest of it comes together. Last thing before you go, as we look ahead, we look at this week 3 slate. Is there any prospect matchup or any guy that you're looking at where you're excited to see how this guy plays against that guy, how this guy plays against this team? Who are you excited to see in this week 3 slate in this class?
Yeah, Northwestern plays against Oregon, and their offensive tackle, Caleb Tiernan, who was one of the best pass protectors in the country last season. He gets to go up against a athletic Oregon defensive line that likes to keep things multiple, likes to bring pressure. I'm interested to see how Tiernan looks against a good group there with Mateo Uiagalelei coming off the edge, and he's going to be blocking him this week. Taylon Green in Arkansas, their quarterback, he faces Ole Miss, and that's a game that should be a shootout, and it should lean into what Taylon Green does really well, which is to score a lot of points. Now, it's not perfect. I think that this is a really important game for him to make sure that the big-time throws can stay up, but the turnover-worthy plays can stay down. To this point, it feels like when he has played good competition, whenever he's tried to ramp up those big-time throws, he's also ramped up those turnover-worthy plays. We saw that a little bit last week, but what does he look like going up against Ole Miss? I'm very interested to see that because a lot of people like him because of the physical gifts. There are times when he reminds you of a guy like Randall Cunningham, man. He's got that same sort of build to him. He's got that rushing ability. He's got that like long arm throwing motion to him. And obviously I'm not saying that he's Randall Cunningham, but that is why a lot of people look at Taylon Green and go, holy cow. All right, let me give this guy a chance for the NFL level, but he's got to play a little bit more consistent. And then the last one, my Gators, they go up against LSU. They're traveling to Death Valley for that. And I'm really looking forward to watching Whit Weeks, their inside linebacker, and then also Harold Perkins Jr., the LSU linebackers there, and how they play specifically. against some guys in the backfield that are going to be future NFL guys, I think. Jackson, Baugh, obviously DJ Lagway as well, and his rushing ability. Harold Perkins was fantastic in that first game against Clemson as that spy type of like heat-seeking missile, green dog blitz type of a linebacker where everything was just kind of kept downhill for him. And he's allowed to have that freedom and flexibility, relating it a little bit to a team that we know a thing or two about. When Levante David and Devin White were a really great duo, I would say at the peak of them being a duo in Tampa Bay, it was because Levante David kept things very in structure and he handled a lot of the coverage responsibilities, and it allowed Devin White to play very, very free as that speedster against quarterbacks and anything out to the flat. It feels like LSU got that combination with Whit Weeks and Harold Perkins Jr., and it'll be a formidable matchup because not only are those backfield players really good for Florida, over the first couple of weeks, they have shown that they really want to run those wide receiver screens, those wide receiver reverses, the jet sweeps, things like that, and LSU's got the speed to be able to defend it. Can they do that? How do they look against the Gators this week?
I tell you what, all of us USF fans are going to be pulling for the Gators the whole rest of the season because we want that game. We want that win to look as good as possible, man. Last thing before you go, I lied to you. I got one more. We always have to do random draft player from history, right? And in 2000, the Baltimore Ravens had 2 top 10 picks. Number 5 overall is Jamal Lewis, who ended up being a fantastic pick for them, incredible running back. But at number 10 overall, they take a wide receiver out of the University of Florida by the name of Travis Taylor. And Travis Taylor spends 5 or 6 years in Baltimore. I think his career high was 869 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns a few years into his career. He played like 7 or 8 seasons, but never got 1,000 yards. But, man, he was a fun player to watch when he was with the Gators. So many of those receivers from that era, man, him, Jabbar Gaffney, a lot of those teams, fun offenses. What do you remember from Travis Taylor's Gator days, and why didn't it work in Baltimore, my friend?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't remember anything because I will tell you a story. Neither of my parents went to college or graduated from college, I should say. And so growing up, we were all about pro sports, Rays, the Lightning, the Bucks. And like, I watched college football just like with my friends, but I had no like allegiance, anything like that. I didn't really get into college football like that until I went to the University of Florida in 2012. And I remember the first time that I walked into the Swamp, I was like, yo, where was this? Like my whole, like my
this has been here the whole time.
And so it is. I do not blame you at all whatsoever. But there are a lot of people who are like, damn, I mean, those early 2000s Gators teams, how about them? And I'm like, yeah, how about them? I can't name one player. I can't.
Also forget how much older I am than you. Like I feel that's like in 2000, I'm actually like cognizant human. I feel like
You're actually, I was going to say, you're actually teaching me some Florida Gator lore here with this.
Go find some Travis Taylor Gator highlights. And
the second we get off of here, I'm getting them.
Dude, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're going to be up to the rest of the season. We can't wait to see it over at PFF, but tell everybody where to find it.
Yeah, after everyone listens to this fantastic draft podcast, you guys want to come out and hang out with Connor Rogers and I over at the NFL Stock Exchange. We do this same sort of thing, all the mock drafts, the player rankings, all that great stuff. PFF.com, that's where you can find my big board. It's where you can find our predictive big board that we're also doing throughout the season. So those things are split. If you go to PFF.com and you hit the little settings button, you go to version, then you can see the 2 different big boards. You can see my personal big board of how I would view these prospects, but then the PFF predictive board is more of a, hey, this is where we think the NFL is going to be on these players. So very different types of rankings, different types of exercises, but we're going to make sure that we're true to that exercise, which of course, then you guys can use the mock draft simulator with as well. So all that good stuff.
Love it, man. It's such a fantastic resource. So many of us have been using it for years. It helps us all be better at our jobs. And we love how good you are at yours, man. Thanks so much for joining us. A lot of fun, always a good time. And we'll have you back soon.
Appreciate it, Luke. Anytime, my friend.
Take care, my friend. All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Again, big thanks to Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus for joining us again. Great conversation about what we've seen so far from the 2026 NFL draft class, the top prospects, what we're still hoping to see, what we're excited to see from that group moving on for the rest of the season. Make sure to check out all of Trevor's work at Pro Football Focus, NFL Stock Exchange, great draft podcast, fantastic information. Him and Connor Rogers, who's also been on the show before. Make sure you subscribe to that show. Make sure you subscribe to this show. Make sure you're liking, commenting. Hit that bell so you get the notifications when the videos are happening every week. And again, get in the comment section. Give us feedback. Let us know what you want to see on the show, and we'll make sure to bring it to you. Thanks again for joining us for this episode. We'll have another great one for you next week.